All right, everybody, welcome back to Optimal Self Conversations. These are simple conversations where we talk to incredible people and who through adversity, grit, and persistence are forging the path of being the best version of themselves. And they join us to give you tools to do the same. Today, we are honored, and I mean honored, and I'm just going to go with it, to have the feelings guy on today's conversation. Archie is somebody who champions mental health awareness worldwide. He challenges people to rethink complicated and emotional topics like depression, suicide, alcohol, drug addiction. And he is really, personally sharing his story to the world and really opening up a whole new conversation. And I am super honored for him to be with us today, man. So Archie, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Thanks, brother. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for this one. This is gonna be a good conversation.
So Archie, it's a quick little intro. So tell the audience, let them to get to know you. Who is Archie? Where do you come from? What exactly has put you on this path and led you where you are today?
Ooh, that was a lot. Okay, let me try to give you the Reader's Digest version, or we will be here until next year. Because literally, we could have like several mini series with that question. So I grew up in the South, and P.S. I'm gay. That's really important for this conversation. I am super gay. But when I grew up in the Deep South, and I mean like small town farm Alabama, I was born in 1976. So like, I know I might not look that old, but I've been around for like a hot minute, and I grew up very religious. So Southern Baptist. So when you grow up in the early 70s, 80s, gay, male in the South, going to church, those things don't go together. So, people always ask me, when did you know you were gay? And I was like, well, I don't know. It's like, when did you know you had red hair? It's the same thing. Like I was talking to someone yesterday and they said, you can always tell who the gay kids are. And I was like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, I threw myself into religion because religion told me that I was going to go to hell, and that was a problem. So like, how can we fix this? And so, I know that you were very sporty. I was not very sporty. And I tried really hard because that's what you do in the South. Everybody plays baseball and football. And since I know you're a baseball player, dude, they put me out in right field at like all times. And nobody ever hits the ball to right field when you're like at, young age. Like, it's the safe place. So, dude, I had my glove off. I was like playing with flowers on the ground, and like somebody hit a ball and people are like, get the ball. And I'm like, what ball? Like, what's going on? This never happens. That was my last. I was done with baseball after that. But so, that, I definitely had a challenging high school, middle school, all this stuff career, because I just didn't fit in. I was just like kid that wanted to like sing and dance, and there was no Glee back in 1990. Like, it wasn't cool. So after college, I went to a private Southern Baptist institution because I was really trying to get the gay to go away. And then I moved to New York to be a performer. That was my trade, song and dance. And then I discovered drugs, and drugs made everything better. All the hurt I had inside, drugs made it better. But eventually the thing that was my comforter became my captor. And I overdosed more times than I can count in words. I woke up in ICU with a tube down my throat. And then I eventually tried to take my own life. So the spiral for me happened fast. And, luckily, one day at a time, with a lot of help and support, I was able to put my life back together and be a person now whose purpose in life is to give back and not have anyone else be sitting on a bathroom floor wanting to take their life.
Wow. First of all, thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being open and honest with that. So when you look back, because you're so articulate, and you tell that almost, it's you probably told it a few times, but I can also but I still feel what when you say those words, right? Because
Mhm.
you know, we all have those instances, you know, and I don't think I've ever shared this with our audience. Is, you know, I grew up Catholic as well, and you know, a few different things within there I won't go into because I want to get more to your story. But I remember, you know, I came home, and actually when I was 16, a kid, one of my friends, right, came out as gay, and I too, I'm born in the early 70s, so it wasn't cool.
No.
And I remember, you know, I remember the backlash, and
Mhm.
at being a young boy and hearing that, and my nana was I mean, she is a devout Catholic. I mean, they're Italian, like from, you know, the old country and all that. And it was really interesting. And I remember sitting down and having a conversation with my mom, because they were, you know, again, it was the heaven and hell thing, right? And I said, wait a second. I mean, I know this kid. He's my friend. I've grown up with it. He's probably, I mean, still like one of the, I mean, salt of the earth, one of the greatest human beings you could ever imagine. And I remember crying, and I was telling my mom, and I said, listen, Mom, if because he's gay and likes, you know, other boys, right? And that's frowned upon in heaven, right? I said, Mom, and I remember crying, telling her, I don't want to go. Because if a guy like that doesn't get in, and somebody who killed somebody or molested a child can say sorry and they get in, then I don't want any part, because I didn't understand, right?
Yeah.
We all don't understand. We're young, impressionable kids. And so when you tell that story, when you talk about your upbringing and the things that you were dealing with, oh my, I got chills all over my body right now, like literally down my spine. Is like, man, first of all, I wish right now this wasn't virtual and we were in person so that I could literally hug you and say,
No, because I'm trying not to cry right now. So no, I would
say
cry.
thank you, man. I just want to say thank you, because the man you are and the way you tell that story and now what you're doing, man, is everything I believe in for optimal self. Is literally like whoever, whatever, doesn't matter, male, female, gay, straight, black, white, whatever. This building a platform to say, look, no. You can be the best version of you. Let's find him or her and let's let them out. And here you are, man, like a true, honest, like I feel it like in my soul, Archie, man. So thank you. So, but let's put some context even deeper around that for the listener. Is, you know, going through that, you know, I mean, addiction. Wow. How many, I mean, by the way, and you please speak to this, because I believe everybody's addicted to something. Like everyone walking, you're either addicted to being lazy, you're addicted to sugar, you're addicted to heroin, you're addicted, like everybody's addicted to something. So I think your version, how you came out of it, is, I think it can help people. So talk a little bit more to that.
About the exit.
Yeah. How did you get through that?
Oh, well, I think to your point, you have to stop and figure out why the addiction exists. And I think that there is a very large misunderstanding by the like, we call them normies. So normies means that you can drink alcohol or maybe do some cocaine and be fine. Like you're a normie. Those of us that are not normies, that's not our life. So yes, there's I believe in science. Let me just say that. So I believe that there's some, so there's some things happening up here that make it a little bit different for me. But I also believe very strongly that drugs aren't the problem. Like drugs and I mean, I've had hundreds of conversations with addicts and alcoholics, and we all agree drugs aren't the problem. They're the symptom of the problem. And my problem was that I had been told either directly or inadvertently for my entire life that I wasn't normal. I wasn't enough. I I could not experience love. What I felt was wrong. If I chose to listen to these feelings that I could choose if I was going to be gay or not, that I was sinning. Like that's just some, I forgot to ask what this is rated, but that's some BS.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, that's some bullshit.
It's rated Archie.
That's some bullshit. And that is trauma. So my problem was that I bought into the fact that like I was a piece of shit. That's, if you just boil it right down, that's what it's going to be. Like I'm never going to have a real relationship because gay people can't do that. Like I'm never, like there's a, if people listening, listen, this is the path that worked for me. Everyone has to find their own path. Sure. But, in the program that I went to, there's this thing called the 9th step promises. And it says that you will experience life beyond your wildest dreams. Bro, the life that I'm living right now, it was impossible to dream. I didn't know that, like, that's what living life beyond your wildest dreams mean. It's not like I'm going to have this like fancy car and like all, like that's great. I never dreamed growing up when in our time period that I would be able to get married to a guy and have a child. Those things were never even possible to be on the table. So the exit was hard because it took me a long time to realize that it's not just about not putting the needle in my arm. It's about what's going on inside and fixing that. Because until I fix that, it didn't matter. To your point, I was just going to find something else to fill it with. I was going to find shopping, or I was going to find chocolate, or I was going to find sex. I was going to find something else to fill that void with until I finally got okay with that and like learned to deal with that and forgave people for that. It was never going to get better.
Damn, that's so well said. And you said this, and I had to write it down immediately. Is impossible to dream, and I truly believe, all of us. I believe success is the ability to learn. You can have any success in your life if you're willing to learn. Right? When we think we know it all, we stop learning. Right? Or we get older, we stop learning. We stop. That appetite stops.
Sure.
And that's what starts the downslide of our lives. So, and I think this happens to when the stuff that we deal with Optimal Self and the people that come in and coach and talk to is so many times, again, their dreams are squashed at a very young age. And here you are at a very young age with anything that you thought could have been possible was truly said, oh no, that's impossible, actually. Right. And so now, wow, that's such an incredible way to see it. And I mean, I can see why you are where you are today because you've recognized that. So,
but also just to get that point one step further,
please.
It's not just that it wasn't impossible. It's that I was choosing to live your dream. I was choosing to live what you said I should be doing. And that is exhausting. It's exhausting to try to be somebody you're not every day, to go to campus and be this person that everyone wants you to be, and to find a girl that you're going to marry, and then to keep that persona up, and then to meet her parents and like do all the things. That is emotionally exhausting. Wow. And there was, I look back on this now and realize that this was a blessing for me, even though I don't wish anyone harm at all. But I was in this choir at school, and there were two of my really good friends who, between my junior and senior year, one of my friends, her father died by suicide because he came out as gay after he had like 2 kids and then just couldn't take it anymore. And then the other one got a divorce. No one really knew why, but also everyone knew why. And I remember the moment that I told my, would-be wife that I was gay. And I knew that there were only 2 options. I knew that I was either going to marry her to use her and then end up cheating on her, or I was going to end up blowing my brains out. Like I knew that those were my only options. And for some reason at that moment, whatever you believe in, I was given some grace to be like, there's another option. Just be honest. And so I said the words and then it was like an avalanche of like, what did I just do? And like, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just always a joke. I mean, like, I don't think that's something you generally joke about to the woman you're going to marry. But yeah, it was I don't think I've really ever told that story. It was a lot. It was a lot.
So so here we are at this crossroads, right? Of being who you truly know you are and making that decision. Where does the drugs or whatever the addiction was, if it was alcohol or drug, where does that fit into what happens? Was it next? Was it before? How does that fit in?
Moments later, like, I mean, not literally moments, but in the scan of life. I mean, I had made friends. So when I was a junior in college, I got cast in my first professional theater experience. And so, even before I graduated, I was making connections in New York. I was making connections to the thing I wanted to do. And like, even in that summer stock experience, they were like, Archie, you're gay. And I was like, no. I go to this Christian school. I got a girlfriend. Like, I mean, it was like and they were all like, sure thing, buddy. It's one of those situations. So, after I ended everything, I pretty much just jumped off the deep end. And if I'm being really honest, all I knew that gay people did was go to clubs. I mean, there was no like gay relationships on TV. There was no Ellen. I didn't know that, people had these, like, I didn't know, like, you just went clubbing. And so I was like, all right, I can do this. I'm a dancer. Let's go dancing. And someone said, hey, we're going to do ecstasy tonight. You want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't even think about it. And that experience of feeling complete, feeling whole, feeling loved, feeling normal, I chased that until I finally stopped to take care of the hurt inside. I chased that feeling.
Wow. I think in so many instances, not even people who are gay, right? Like just in, I remember there's so many people that I talk to that have that same feeling though of they're missing something, right? They're chasing that love, or they're chasing that they're living somebody else's life. That's the way you explained it in such a clear way that I'm sure there's people listening right now that are living somebody else's life, whether it's their parents or whether it's, whatever it is. So breaking through that, right? When you finally said, oh God, I'm way down this road, right? And, waking up in places that you probably don't remember. And, how did I get here? And all those moments. So take us through, how does that transition happen? How do you start to reconcile with who you are and truly become the best version of you?
I think there were several steps along the way. I think the first step was realizing that I couldn't do it on my own. And when you get to the level of addiction that I was at, you pushed everybody away, because either people don't want to see you in that state, or they just can't. It's one of those two things. And so I'd push people about as far as I could push them. So it's knowing I couldn't do it on my own. Again, I don't know what you believe in, but for me, when things finally began to turn the corner, I started working with this guy, who was my sponsor, who was a straight man. And I'd never had a relationship with a straight man, because I was like, what do you want from me? Like, you don't want to sleep with me. So what possibly is going to come from this relationship? I didn't understand. I didn't understand how someone could, literally, he taught me what love was. He did, because he loved me unconditionally just because. Didn't want anything back from me. He just wanted to see me stay alive. So that experience was probably the first real big step to understand and to experience someone loving you, a straight man loving you just because he loved you. I wish that I had one of those stories that, like, I was like, I'll just stop, and then I'll stop. And that's not really what happened. I bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced. And, again, if we talk about being honest, I really didn't start getting truly better until my second rehab when I finally talked about the fact that I hear voices in my head, and not just like, we all have like an inner voice, like, right. Like, well, but like I actually hear voices in my head. And sometimes, well, not anymore, but like sometimes I talk to them. But I'd already been to a psych ward. So like, I wasn't going to tell you this, because if I did, you're going to take me back to the psych ward, and I didn't want to go there. So when I finally got honest about that, and when I finally got honest about the suicide attempt, then things begin to get better, because there's this saying that like, you're only as sick as your secrets. And I was like, but I just don't want to talk about this. Like, I'll talk about everything else. I'll talk about all the other things, all the places that I woke up, I'll talk about all the things. I don't talk about this. And I remember when I told my therapist in rehab, because I was like, I've got to tell you this thing. And so I was like, I hear voices. And she was like, okay. And then we just like moved on. And I was like, wait a minute, what? She was like, oh yeah, it's fine. We'll get some medicine. Well, it'll be fine. And I'm like, I've been like living with this thing for decades, and you're like, okay, whatever. Can we just spend like a moment on it? So it was also the way that she received it. Like, whatever, like no big deal. Like we'll fix it. So again, it's about, for me, it was about, I can't do this on my own, trusting somebody else implicitly and getting honest. Like really, truly getting honest saved my life.
So let's expand on that, because I think that I agree. I know times in my life as well, you know what I mean? And the same thing has happened. So what to you is getting honest? What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think there's a difference in being like honest and truthful. Like, I'm telling you the truth. Like, if you ask me a question and I answer it, I'm telling you the truth. Like, but am I telling you the whole truth? That's being honest. And so that was a learned skill for me. I'm sure if my husband is listening right now, he's like, yes, it was. But it was a learned skill to be completely honest. But again, like, I didn't trust you. So why am I going to share everything with you? Because you're just going to go away. That's what people do in my life. They go away. So, and that kind of loops back around. I don't know if I mentioned I'm adopted. That kind of loops back around to the adopted piece. And I was, having a child now, I know what happens between 0 and 2 years. Before I had Kate, I really didn't get it. I honestly didn't get it. I was like, oh yeah, I was 2. I don't remember it, whatever. There's a lot that happens between 0 and 2. And I wasn't with my parents, my family. I was, with an emergency foster placement and then a foster placement. And I'm sure they did wonderful work for me. I'm sure they did, but it's just different. So like, why am I going to be honest with you? Because if I'm honest and you learn all the stuff inside, you're going to go away. So for me, that when I say like being honest, I mean like honest, not just answering the question. What's all the questions that aren't being asked that that they really mean, but you're like, I don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's very well said, right? It's not telling the truth. It's telling the whole truth, and to ourselves as well. Yeah. That's a really, really big piece is actually telling ourselves, because we justify everything. So even when you're choosing, to go out that night or the ecstasy or whatever those things are, we've justified whatever behavior we choose. Yeah. We're not, there's nothing in this world that we don't. Somehow, some way, in our own mind, we've already said it's okay, and we're already going down that road. So that I always say, I'm like, the guy who robs the bank, right? He knows what he's doing. That's something, he knows, choice, consequence, and all of it, right? When they catch you, you're going to, and it's just part of the game for them. They've already justified why it's okay for them to come in and do this. And so for you, right, for all of us, we've already justified the behavior. Yeah. So telling ourselves, now we got to go back to what you just said, telling ourselves the whole truth starts to eliminate that, right? So with optimal self, and I want to get your take on this, is that what I talk about all the time is decision-making, because that's what it comes down to. At some point you had to make this decision that like, yep, I am coming all out. I'm going to let them know who I am, how I am, and I'm moving forward. Right. And whatever that is for you, whatever that is for the listener right now, is that, and again, it could be any goal. It could be saying, hey, I want to do this. I want to achieve this. Right. Is that, when you're fully committed, finally, internally, when you say yes to this, and I'm no longer going to, all the other decision-making becomes easy. Because if it's not in alignment with that, if it's not that, then I can say no to it. And it's, again, it's easier said than done. It's just like you said, it's a learned behavior. I have to learn that. And I have to learn how to say no. I have to learn how to say, no, that's not okay. And so for you, stepping into you now, right? I'm no longer being what everybody else wants me to be. I'm no longer whatever. And now here I am, and I'm stepping into me. What was that like for you? And how does that equate to what you do today and what you're bringing to the world today?
That's a great question. And a great setup. Well, I mean, I think the research is pretty clear that when a human decides to come out, and we're talking about sexuality, you're starting over. Like it's like I may be, 19, 20 years old. I guess I was 21, maybe 21, 22. The part of me that I was being honest about was a child. Like I was starting over because I had never, that part of me was never allowed to be out ever. So it's like, you look at me and you see this 21-year-old, like I'm this infant, like trying to figure this thing out because there was no like playing house and like playing all that stuff like that. None of that happened. None of the stuff that happens when someone is living their authentic self from the beginning. And I know that we all like figure things out about ourselves, but if we're going to follow this analogy along, which again, I think is very research based. I had a lot of catching up to do, but then I added drugs on top of that. And so that was a bit of a problem. So this person that was trying to figure himself out then was like constantly stumping himself. Like I'm constantly pushing that person back in. So like I could never figure out who this person was. And that actually is how the feelings guy came about. Because once I put some time together, once I stopped, doing the drug and, doing the things and being honest with myself and other people, I found, and that I had the things, right? Like I found the guy who was like, okay, I'm going to marry you and all your baggage, like all of it. Let's get the train of baggage and let's do it. I still wasn't waking up happy. And I was like, what is going on? Like I did all the things, like what's happening? And I realized that I have this really big personality and I have this really big spirit that wants to help, but it's a lot for people. It's a lot. And so I was trying to like constantly keep it back in. And, I was working in corporate America. Actually, I actually made this video today that's coming out on my Instagram on Sunday about these costumes that we wear. We all wear these costumes, right? Like so we go to work and we wear these costumes. And then when you're a CEO, you wear expensive costumes and you wear expensive shoes. And like I made the video in my Breathe Right strip and my like hair and my pajamas. And my point was, if I showed up to work with your team wearing this, nothing about my expertise, my content, and my excellent facilitation skills change. You just see a different costume. And if this costume makes you uncomfortable, why? Why does this make you uncomfortable? I'm just a human being who just woke up. Are you saying that like I get smarter when I put my costume on? No, that's just what we've just like chosen to believe. And so when I finally broke free of all that crap, and I was like, I'm not doing this, and I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to help other people learn about these feelings that they have, then life clicked. And it was like all the shit train like finally caught up, and they were like, the shit train is like gone. You can now live on like the thriving train. And that's what I've been doing, and it's been a blessing.
Wow, I love it. I love it. I love the way that you explained, here you were technically an adult, but yet the person, because you had suppressed who you really were for so long, you're really a child, and it was starting over. And I think about that for all of us. I tell the story, my birth father was an alcoholic drug addict. My mom got us out of there. Never had much of a relationship with him at all. But that little boy, that little 5-year-old little boy that needed his dad, that wanted his dad to come pick him up and take him to a baseball game when he said he would, and all that, he still lives in me. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he does. And I'm so happy you said that. I've never shared this openly, at least not in this format before. And years later, I mean, having children and all that, like I built up even a more resentment towards him. Like I was more pissed off at him because I couldn't imagine how he wouldn't want to be part of all that. Seeing my little girls grow up, and I was the we did pageants and tumbling and cheerleading, and, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, and man, I couldn't imagine not being there. And so I actually got more angry at him over the years. And then I finally had to work on myself. Because it was like, whoa, because you lose some relationships and things aren't quite, I mean, I'm having mad success in other areas of my life. And again, you're not happy, or you're not, that fulfillment part doesn't come in. And it was a moment by myself. I went to Arizona for a retreat, totally by myself. Nobody even knew I was going. Didn't let anybody know I was doing it. And I had a great experience. But actually in the hotel waiting for my flight the next day to come back to California is when it actually happened. I was journaling and I was having these feelings, and it happened for me, which was the moment that I realized it was okay to love him. I was so not wanting to love him. Never say that. Like I wouldn't even call him and I had this moment by myself in a hotel, pouring all this emotion, right? And it happened where I was like, oh, wait, it's okay to say, because I love him and I'm suppressing it, right? He is part of my life. He is part of that. And I used to always say, yeah, he's the part of my life. He showed me what I don't want to be, right? And I was like, look at me, and not get it, you know what I mean? Like, and it was so the opposite. And like this huge weight went off of me that day, sitting there. And you saying it right now about starting over and being that child and learning again, it opened me up to learning how to love, because I still had love. My parents, my mom, my grandparents, like I had amazing people in my life. My mom is the most loving human you could ever meet, man. Like Nana, Papa, like, wow. Like I've always been grateful. They're such amazing people. But here it was, this, that missing link, I think maybe, right, is what you're talking like. And when you said it today, it just dawned on me. And again, I've never shared that story. And it was a moment though, that to say, wait, it's okay to love him. It's okay because it opened up so many other things. And then all of these little triggers that triggered me on other people. Like one of the things that I could not stand was like my loved one being the drunk, sloppy drunk, because I grew up in bars with him being the sloppy drunk. So when I saw that, it angered me. Not that they were doing something to anger me, one too many tequilas and they caught up and here you go, right? It was nothing to hurt me, but it hurt me. But it wasn't them. It was because I was holding on to all this other baggage. I was holding on to all these other feelings that I wasn't letting myself actually explore, right? And hearing you, Archie, man, it just brings it all to light. So you go from that, right? And starting over, which is beautiful said. I hope people heard that, and I hope they can allow themselves to be childlike in their own growth. Go back to that child. What is he or she missing, and be childlike in your growth. Understand, like, hey, let's heal. Let's heal Jeremy, the 5-year-old. And I'm going to say this, and please speak to, but I do know, and I don't know for you, is he still lives in me. Oh, that it doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away. No,
Never.
It doesn't go away. Yeah. And I know that there are probably people out there like literally rolling their eyes at the back of their head about this inner child stuff. Then what's your answer? What'd you figure out? Because let me know, because I don't know what else there is. I mean, it's
okay for them. Like, it's okay.
I mean, it is, but like,
I'm not here for agreeable. I'm not here for anybody to agree with us. I want to know your story, and I'm going to tell mine, whether you like it or not. That is our truth. And I know that little boy still lives there, and I'm okay with that. And what's helped me is knowing that he's there, knowing that and now I don't get those same feelings, Arch. I don't.
And I guess that's what I mean is that if you hear that and it brings up something, so there's a saying that I hold dear that's if it's hysterical, if it's historical, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if hearing somebody talk about inner child and you're like, ugh, why? Where's that feeling coming from? Like, where did it come from? Because otherwise you just be like, oh, okay. But if you're resistant to it, what is that feeling about? And that's my world today. It's like, let's listen to these feelings. So that's what I mean. If you're listening to it and you're like, ugh, stop for a second. Where's the ugh coming from? Is it because you relate this conversation to a person that you have some disdain for, which is possible? Or is it because there's something going on? You're like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. Okay, maybe not this moment is the time to deal with it, but maybe you should think about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So now let's get into what you do on a daily basis, right? So now, international speaker all around, you've been to corporations, universities, all kinds of cool stuff. So now we thrust into who you are today and what you're bringing to the world. So what does that look like? How did that happen? And again, what does that look like for you? Yeah. Right?
Oh, well, that's another story. So I've been in higher ed for almost 20 years, maybe like 18 years, either as a full-time employee or as a volunteer. And I'd worked my way up. I worked on a college campus. I worked in my fraternity headquarters. I worked at an umbrella organization. And I was serving as the vice president of health and safety for this umbrella organization that supported all fraternities all over the country. And so I was doing really cool work and I loved what I was doing. But I'd been speaking on the side for about probably like 7 years. It's like a side hustle. People would, call me. And I remember the first time someone called and said, what's your rate? And I was like, what do you mean what's my rate? And they were like, what do you want us to pay you? And I was like, a hamburger? Like, I don't know. Like, I have a job, I was just kind of doing on the other. So I felt like that I'd built up a reputation as being someone that was very good at what I do when I'm in front of a room and very helpful. And so I told my job in October of 2019, I said, so I'm leaving January 1st, 2020. And I was like, I'll give you this off ramp. And they're like, great. So January 2020 comes, I'm doing all my, marketing and, I had a semester lined up because I think in semesters, because at that point I was really working in the college market. College and high school was my bread and butter. Had all these gigs lined up and I went to speak at Clemson and I was on the plane back home the day after basketball shut down. And when basketball shut down, that was kind of the beginning of the shutdown. And I was sitting there thinking, this is not happening. Like, I did not just take this enormous leap, like our family couldn't afford to be. I mean, I was like, what? And then within like 2 days, my calendar cleared and I panicked. I mean, like panicked. And all the old behavior started coming into my head. I'll just go get high because I just wanted to check out, And so I also have a mental illness. So that was kicking in. I mean, there was a lot going on. And so I laid in bed for 2 days and I ate chocolate ice cream and I watched Grey's Anatomy and I felt sorry for myself. And then I got my ass out of bed and I started helping. And I created a program about what it looks like to deal with anxiety. And I just gave it away. I just called people and said, do you need help? And it's bizarro to me now that people thought that I was killing it. Like, I didn't get paid for any of this. I didn't get paid for months. I actually ended up getting a job at a big box store. I never thought I'd work at like a lumber store, but like I had to get a job because at that point we had a 2-year-old and, we needed 2 incomes. And, but what's fascinating is that during that season of giving back, that's when like corporations started saying, hey, my friends would see it and they were like, can you come do this? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I would zoom in and they'd be like, where have you been? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just really honest. But during that season of supporting others, I became an excellent virtual facilitator. So when everyone else started figuring out we had to do things virtually, I already had done. I had the studio lights and the sound and I had all the stuff. And so then my business just skyrocketed and corporations, high schools, colleges. I mean, there were times when I would do like 3 or 4 presentations a day. And then I had to figure out, okay, that's too much. Like I can't give that much of myself away. And so then the brand was born, ArchieCares was born. and the podcast started, and now I'm really blessed. I'm blessed that people, you know, I mean, the unfortunate part is the need for authentic and engaging mental health programming is going nowhere. So, you know, people still need this. And I'm glad that now we're going to start to do in-person things again, because I can't wait to hug people. I'm like, come on, I'm going to give you a hug. So that's how it happened. And here we are. And I'm blessed to be able to do it.
Oh my God. Hold on. I talk about this literally almost every day. And it's very simple. You have to give to get. And I've done countless one-offs on it. I mean, literally. And you just said, I want the listener to go back and listen. And you said, I lost everything, meaning my calendar, what I was going to do, right? Everything shut down. And okay, I laid in bed for a couple days. And FYI, everybody, that's okay too.
Totally.
Take your 5 minutes to
feel your feelings,
48 hours or whatever it is. Take it, because there's a lot to be said there. Mindless television, right? Get my mind off of everything else. You didn't go to and then said, okay, let's figure out what we can do. And again, it goes right along with, you got to give to get. So you gave away your first program for free, nothing, just here. Do you need it? Here, take it here. Right. And then all of a sudden things start to happen. And when you take action, when you actually do something, so you then had to get up, you had to write the program. You had to at least package it up in a way that people could that they could consume it. Yep. Right. Here's my commodity. They got to be able to consume it. So you had to put it in some kind of format. That's taking action, right? You got to actually do things. And then guess what happens? Doors start to open that you never even knew that there was a door there.
Yep.
Right? People ask that question all the time. Like, I don't know. I just kept going. And then people called me and asked me for this. And then somebody hit me up in my DMs and asked me. And then next thing you know, because again, I don't know where the damn doors are. I don't. But what I do know is every time I keep going, a fucking door opens. It's really weird how that happens. And it's so beautifully said. So you give it away. People obviously respond, and it buds into, but I want to, because I'm in the same position, right? It's some very similar in what happened. This was just a passion of mine. I was just like, I was coaching these people, and I was running offices, and I was building real estate companies and real estate businesses, and I was talking to all these people, and then I started getting people outside of the real estate industry to say, hey, you help my friend. I have this business. Can you help me? I'm like, it's a sales business. Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you exactly. Let's look at some metrics. Let's put things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here's what I found. Every single one of them needed the same thing, which was mental training, mindset, belief training. That half of the problem was their belief system.
Absolutely.
And so here you are, like, so take us again through that process, because you're giving it away, and now they're opening it, and now all of a sudden.
Yep. Well, and I do just also want to say, belief without action is bullshit.
Yes.
Like
thank you.
You can believe it all day long, but like, I'm just going to sit here and it's going to come to me. What? Like, that's just not a thing. So I believed it. I believed that I could be helpful. I believed that I took this leap for a reason. And then I had to do something. Then I had to do some action. So to your point, I had to get out and I had to learn. So when I started this business, I assumed I was going to be the drug guy. I assumed I was going to be the guy that you were going to hire to talk about like addiction. And yes, come on now. I need to trademark that shit. You inspired me to bring out the very best. I thought that that's what I was going to do, and I still do. I mean, people still hire me to do that, but 90% of what I do now is in the mental wellness space. And it's because I did a shit ton of research, and I figured out my secret sauce. There's nothing there's nothing proprietary to mental wellness education. I mean, we're all teaching the same thing, but there's some boring ass people out there. And I was like, I'm not going to be boring. Like I'm going to, and what's amazing to me is that the very first time that a corporation reached out and said, hey, we want you to do this, I literally was in my head going, so do I change myself? Do I do this differently? Or do I do the same thing? Do I do the same jokes? And so I made the decision. I'm going to show up 100% as me. Now, of course, okay, so maybe a TV show reference I changed to, I maybe threw in like Dallas or something because like these old people know what Dallas is. And I love me some Dallas, don't play. But like I was the exact same person. And what I hear from HR managers all the time is that you are so authentic that it's scary and that people just lean in. And so I counted one time, I did over 30 free programs. 30. I did 30 free programs. And then one time somebody said, okay, we don't really have a budget, but we have $500. And I was like, hey, that's a car payment. So then I started thinking in car payments. I was like, okay, well, maybe they'll just pay me this. Now, before then and today, I charge much more than $500 because I know that I'm well more than $500, worth well more than that. But at the time, when nobody had any money, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so then the program's built. And then somebody said, hey, can you build this program? And I'm actually launching 2 new programs next week. And one of them is about mindfulness, because I believe it's called Flip the Script on Your Disempowering Beliefs. Because I realized that there is actually science to this hoo-hoo that I kept hearing. People are like, change your mind, change your life. And I was like, fuck you. Like, what does that even mean? Like, that's so silly. But then I realized I was doing it to myself. Like I was keeping myself down, And so I was like, okay, let me find some science. And so now my secret sauce is that I can take this complex, like blah, blah, blah stuff and make it entertaining and interesting. And then people go, oh, okay, I can do that. And that brings me so much joy. Seeing these accountants that are sitting there like, bleh, and then they get it. And I'm like, yeah, come on now. You got it, Mr. Accountant. So it's there's a lot of joy in our house these days.
Man, you're blowing my mind. There's so many things that, again, I knew coming into this, we were going to align on so many levels, but it's literally like, it's unbelievable. One of the things that you said right there is, you were creating this, people were, could they pay, could they not pay? Like, you know what I mean? Again, where society was, where we were as an economic, the economic impact that was happening to a lot of people. We know that they need this, right? And I have said this again 1,000 times, even with my own producer, people that are part, and they're like, hey, you need to charge this, or you need to do this, or you need to stop giving this much time to this, right? They've said this many, many times. And I know what they're saying, right? Because again, monetizing and making your worth, right? Yep. Trust me, I understand my worth. You ain't got it. I'm the last guy you got to worry about that. I've been working on that shit for a long time, right? Like I know what I'm worth. But with that being said, the way I look at it, and maybe this is you too, just in different words, the way I look at it is in those moments when I know that I can help somebody and I know that they can't pay my rate. Yeah. And I still choose to do it. I say one is because you got to give to get. And I know there's going to be more to it. The other part is, here's the selfish side, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say it to you, is I get to sharpen my axe. Mm-hmm. I get to get better by having that conversation or working through or doing that meeting, no matter what. The way I look at it is, Jeremy, go sharpen your axe. Mm-hmm. Go do it. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Right? I know my worth. I'm not coming there. I'm not negotiating my rate. Right. Make no mistake. I don't negotiate. No, I am what I am. You're not. Now, in a situation where there's a person or there's a family, or there's something that I can help, and I know that, and I know that they simply cannot afford it, and especially in those times, especially the pandemic times and other things like that. There are some things, right? In In the legal world, they call it pro bono, right? Is they're like, hey, I'm going to do it, because, well, it's the same thing, but here's what we know is, ladies and gentlemen, where's that moment you're looking to get paid or you're looking to get it? Listen, you're going to get paid. If be the best at what you do. And I promise those people will call and they will pay your rate.
Yeah.
Even when you think they won't. That's our own limiting belief, right, Arch? We're like, wait, you want to pay me? I mean, I've had that.
I know, right?
They pay. I'm like, wait, you want to? Oh, sure.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. But and so much what you said is so true. And I want people to hear this. Cause I mean, I had a lot of speakers in the industry that were like, they got some salt because they were like, can you stop giving away these programs? We're trying to make money. And I was like, well, I'm trying to make money too, but ain't nobody got no money because everybody froze all the budgets. So you're sitting over there doing nothing. And like, to your point, I'm sharpening my axe. And here's the other T. You can't be bitching when I gave you a free program. Okay. If you don't like it, it's free. Like, what you gonna do with it? So by the time people started paying again, like I said, I was good to go. Everybody else was still figuring it out. And they're figuring out with this added stress of there was no contracts. It was like, I'll show up at 4:00 and we'll do this program. And then I would always give them more because when the program was over, if we're talking about high school and college, man, I can't tell you the number of dudes who reached out to me who were like, I'm hurting a lot. And I was like, yeah, no shit, because you can't go to the gym. So you can't lift that feeling away anymore. You can't run that feeling away. These feelings have caught up with you. So what are we going to do? And there were several times when I worked with the campus to get, like, we got to get this kid some help because we are at like danger zone. But like nobody else was having those conversations. And I was like, let's just have the conversation. Let's just do it. So I think that's I mean, yes, if you're an entrepreneur, if that's your world, we're used to betting on ourselves. There's a difference in betting on yourself when there's nothing to bet on. Like there's no money. Like, I mean, like it was, what we just experienced. I pray that's the last time we experience it in our lifetime. I pray. But like, that's the true bet. When like, there's no bet. It's not even a gamble. You're like, well, I'll just do it. But you take action and then you keep taking action and then you keep building on that action. And, this may be hard for you to believe, but I'm a shitty salesperson. Like it makes me so uncomfortable because I just want to help people because I shouldn't be on this planet. I mean, the stuff that I took I should not be here. I overdosed. I woke up being intubated. I mean, like literally they did CPR to get me back. So like, I literally shouldn't be here. So I feel weird being like, well, this is how much it costs. Like, but with my largest deal, I literally had to like practice in the mirror. I had to like practice saying it because I was like, I cannot get these words out. And it's getting a little easier now because also now I look at my child and, what I'm doing is yes, it's to save lives, but it's also to support my child. So, I mean, I know there was a lot there, sorry, but no. Yeah, take action, keep taking action, believe in yourself, and then take some more action. And when people tell you no, keep going. Because to your point, really early on, somebody DM'd me. They saw me on Instagram and they sent me a DM. And they were like, hey, I saw your stuff. This is amazing. This is exactly what we need. And I was like, oh, great. And so we talked and they were like, here's our budget. And I almost passed out. And I was like, okay, yeah, that'll work. And then when they ran me up the flagpole to the other people, it was still too early in my business. I didn't have an Instagram following. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have, it was all very new. And they were like, we just need somebody more experienced. And that really stung because I knew that I could support and I wanted to like cave into myself. And I was like, that's one door. Let's just keep going. And then more doors opened.
Man, there's so many people out there that even in their current situation need to hear that because I've told this story before and you can probably resonate with this is I had a kid that I was coaching in the real estate arena and he was like, hey, I need to stop coaching, or I don't think you're going to want to coach me anymore because I'm moving to part-time. Right. And I was like, okay, first of all, what is part-time? What does that even mean? Like, is that, because I don't believe in the time component, right? Like an 8-hour workday is full-time. So a 4-hour. So wait, if I can get all of mine done in 2 hours, shit, I'm not even part-time. Like I don't even know what that means. Like I don't have a time is relative. Yeah. Like work is action is, right? Like, and so, but his point was, good kid. He was a young kid, 24, got kicked out of the house when he was 18, was living on his own, and barely making ends meet, trying, it's a commission job, right? You only get paid if you get a closing. And so he's going to get a job, was at Staples and in Staples. And so he said, I'm working, I'm choosing nights so I can still do the real estate during the day. I can still make my calls. I can do, whatever. And so I said, okay, that's wonderful. I'm proud of you. Right. Cause you're stepping up. You're not trying to live off somebody else. You're not trying to fake it. You're like, no, man, this is real. Dude, that's all I love. I love authenticity. I love the realness. And I said, but it's under one condition and one condition only. And he said, of course he's young. He's like, anything, man, you're going to keep coaching me, anything. And I said, I don't give a shit what they ask you to do at Staples. If they ask you to sweep the floor, you be the best damn sweeper they have ever had in their life. There's no complaining. There's no putting your head down. There's no, why me? What about Joe? He's low. You say, great, here we go. Where's the broom? Where's this? Let's go and do it the best that it's ever been done. If they ask you to stay late and stack computers at 2 a.m, you figure out new ways that computers can be stacked. You invent new shit that they're like, wow, we never thought of that. Like, do it the best that it can be done. The best that you can possibly do. There is no, because those jobs, if you're just going there to get a paycheck and you're just going to bide your time, hoping that real estate's going to take off, it's not. Because how you are here is how you are everywhere. And if you're going to take your half-ass performance to Staples, there's no switch inside of us. You don't get to turn the switch on and go, oh, now I'm going to be great. Yeah. No, it's not how it works. It's not how it works, because in this business, you're going to get told no, you're going to lose deals. You're going to get the door slammed in your face. And guess what? That's the moment that I got to be switched on. The on switch happens in the little moments when they ask you to do the little thing. And when you say no, or when you whine or you complain, you're setting yourself up for failure and everything else. Yep. And I hear you. I mean, everything that you're saying with how things have transpired for you, it's exactly that. It's like, nah, man, I just got to keep going. Okay. Thanks for your no. I know what I want to do. And it's more so, and I guess this is a question. So is it more so of who you want to be and what you want to bring to the world, or is it truly the business, right? Like, because once you understand who you are and once you step into that, right? I tell all my clients, right? Be unapologetically great, because good enough isn't. Good enough isn't. Be unapologetically great, because when you are, they call, right? But for you, listening to you and now understanding and following along with your success, it's really cool to hear the whole transformation, because like I see you today and hear you today, and I hear like you, like, I'm like, yeah, man, like that's a man who knows who he is and what he's bringing to the world, right? Is that what it is for you, bringing this to the world? Not what I want to say. It's more about what they need to hear or what they want to hear.
I think that in my case, I'm lucky in that the two are married. Okay. And I really do believe that. I really do believe that what continues to make me so successor is that I am just not afraid to get vulnerable. I mean, in like the first 2 minutes of any presentation I give, you found out about the overdose, you find out about the intubation tube, you find out about the IV drugs. Like you find out that like I got my dream. Like I moved to New York City and I got it. Like not many people can say that. Like I got it. And then I was like, yeah, I'll stick a needle in my arm. And I think people are just like, whoa, like what's going on here, and I've had people say, I mean, and I give people care warnings. I say, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to say the word suicide, I'm going to say the word drug addict, I'm going to say the word, I mean, I tell you before I start talking, so that if you're like, I can't do this, you can take care of yourself. But people are like, I wasn't ready for that. And but it's like, how like you're climbing up, like a lot of people's presentations, you are climbing up that roller coaster and you climbing. I'm like, climb, boom, like let's go. And then we're just going. And then, and so I think I am lucky in that what people really yearn is honesty. There's so little of it. Vulnerability, there's so little of it. And then practical things they can do. That's the other thing that I find missing a lot of times. It's like, okay, this is all real cute. Like I feel better. I feel better about myself, but like, what do I do now? Like, I just feel better. And so I think I've married the, like, you're going to feel better because you're going to be in the presence of somebody who's being completely vulnerable, but then you're going to know what to do. You're going to know some action steps that I believe will work. I tell people that I marry lived experience and research. Like, I don't ever get up there and just, I believe that if I've been given a platform, it's my responsibility to not just be sharing my opinion all the time. And if it's just my opinion, to say, P.S., this is my opinion. I believe it to be true, but this is my opinion. And I very rarely say that. It's like, this is my lived experience. Here's the research to back it up. So whichever one you need, take this thing and then go do it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm the same way, man. I love it. So when you say action steps, people listening today, like what can you leave? What can they leave here with? They've been with us now for an hour.
Sure.
What action steps, or what is something that they can take away?
So I'm gonna give you two things. One is in the mindset piece. And I'm sure you've said this before. I'm sure people have said this before, but let me say it again. We say things to ourselves we would never say to anyone else. And the problem is, like, the scientific problem, your brain listens. There's this thing called the reticular activating system. Yes, and it literally, like, it's when you tell it the piece of shit that you are, you're telling your brain to look for that. So I was having a conversation with a guy, and someone that I asked, like, call me. I want to get better on this. I still don't have a coach. I might need one. I don't know. But like, I didn't have a coach, and I couldn't afford one at the time, but I was like, I need some guidance. And he said, okay, you are really negative. And I was like, I was offended. I was like, what? I mean, I was like, I'm a mental health coach. And he was like, yeah, but in our conversation tonight, you have said, I'm drowning at work about 4 times. And he was like, unless you work at a swimming pool, you're not drowning. Like, it's not possible. And so I realized in that moment, I was saying all sorts of things to myself that, like, my brain was believing it. Like, it is literally impossible for me to drown at work. When I say I don't have enough time for that, well, I got the same time I did yesterday. And I know that you know that too. But like, so what I want to challenge you to do, because usually when people say, watch the things you say to yourself, they're like, fuck my life. Like, okay, we all know that we probably shouldn't say that one. Like, that's not helpful. But like, think about the things you say to yourself, like literally and so when you find yourself saying it, just kind of stop yourself and go, no, Archie, my walls are blue, but I'm not drowning. So like, maybe I'm just going to prioritize this today. So that's number one. Number two, I firmly believe that if we change the way that we greet and interact with each other, we can save lives. If I were to come to you and say, hey, Jeremy, how you feeling today? You'd probably be like, feeling. Because it's not something we say. We say, hey, what's up, bro? Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, how's it going? Hey, what's up? And so, good, man. How are you? Like, that is verbal diarrhea. That doesn't mean anything. It's just some shit that we say. And what we really mean is hi. We really just mean hi. So if you want to say hi, just say hi. But if you really want to, I think I'm going to sneeze. There we go. If you really want to get to know somebody, ask them, hey man, how are you feeling? And they might go, what? Why? Why do you want to know? Or they might answer, whatever it is. But what's the beauty is when somebody goes, really? You're like, yeah. And then they actually just start talking. and you've given that person permission to just be. Now, I do it all the time. Like I'm in Starbucks and they're like, how can I take your order? I'm like, yeah, but first, how are you feeling today? And they're like, sir, can I take your order? I'm like, you can, but how are you feeling? The other thing that you can do when someone says to you, hey, Jeremy, what's up? You're like, you know what? I am feeling excited. Like answer a feeling answer. Like give them the answer that they probably meant to ask to the question, but they didn't really ask it. Like model the way in all the ways. I guarantee you, if you do that for 2 or 3 days, your brain starts to think in feelings, which it should. So think about the things you say to yourself. And I call it the how are you feeling challenge. Take it for 2 days. How are you feeling? And just see what responses people get. It's pretty fascinating the things that you will hear back from people. Don't know how to reply because fine isn't a feeling. It's not a feeling. So we're on any feeling chart. We just all say it. So those are my 2 practical things.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's so funny you say that because I'm the guy that when they go, so hey, how are you? I'm like, I am fucking fantastic every time. Regardless, any day, everything. And they're like, wow, that was, I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Cause I am like, let's go. And even clients, right? They see me in the office now or wherever, whatever we're doing. And I'm like, hey, how are you? And they try to give me that. I'm all right. I'm like, no, let's go. Yep. Why? Yep. Why just all right? Like, look at this. Like, why? Yep. What are we talking about? Right. Yep. So I love it, man. I love it. Let's put it up there for them. How are you feeling challenge? And, I'm always that person and I'm the introspective. I'm the man in the arena. I tell people all the time, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. I'm never going to ask you to drink, eat, move in any way, shape or form. I'm never going to that if I haven't, that I won't do it. Never. That's not how I work. So at the same time, when I says like, how are you feeling? I would challenge people to do it to themselves. Ask yourself, like, how are you feeling? Yep. And be honest, right? Yep. Be honest with yourself. Like, because again, I will say in so many moments where I'm like, I am fantastic. Like, and then put a reason behind that. Why? Well, because I'm whatever, something simple, because I'm breathing and I have a house and I have a beautiful, whatever. Like you can make up. You can make a reason. You're like, hey, yeah, man, that's what that is a reason to be fantastic, know? But if you feel like shit, ask yourself why you feel like shit. Cause again, that's another way that we can instantly change that state by being honest with ourselves and figuring out why. And I love what you said before about, we're so quick to go and try to fix the symptom. Oh, you got a runny nose here. Take this.
Take this. Yeah.
What the hell is that? Wait. Why do I have a runny nose? Why? Like, whatever that, again, the feeling, stop. It's just this don't go to the symptom, go to the cause. Let's figure out what the hell the problem is.
And we're taught that from like, I realized early on when Cade was like, 1-ish, 1.5, 2, and listen, that's a different age. I mean, they like cry, poop, sleep. But, once he began to like walk and like do this, if he started getting upset, and crying, I realized I was like, do you want a cookie? Do you want to watch Bluey? Do you want to, and then I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just love him? Let me just love this kid. And so now I mean, it's, he kind of uses it against us now, but he's like, Papa, are you happy? And I'm like, no, I'm irritated. Oh, Papa, you're irritated. But like this kid, he knows more feeling words than probably most grown men because we just do feelings all the time. But to my guys that are listening, like it's okay to be sad. Like that is the feeling you should feel. And if you want to see some power, if somebody asks you what's going on and you're sad, to just say, I'm really sad today. And it's okay. I don't necessarily want to talk about it. I'm just really sad. You have just, if a young boy were to hear that, you've just given him permission forever to say how he really feels, because nobody's fine all the time. That's some bullshit. Yeah. So whatever feeling you're feeling, say that and then be okay with it, because it's the feeling that you have.
Well said. Well said. That's such great advice. I love it. All right. So we're gonna start to wrap it up, and we'll see how long we go. But this is the section that I call quick hitters. Okay. And there's 2 words that I ask everybody, how it hits them and how it affects them. And so I'm gonna ask you, and I don't even have to tell you to be authentic and come from your gut. It's already going to happen. So in quick hitters, the first word I want to ask you is impact. How do you want to leave it? What does that hit you? When you think of that word, what comes to mind?
Yep. There is a little boy somewhere in Oshkosh tonight that knows that he's gay and knows that the world and feels like the world is against him. And I want to be that voice. I want him to see me on social media and be like, what the crap? Like, I can be this and I can be happy and I can have a husband and I can have a child, because I don't want him to end up thinking I shouldn't be here anymore because I'm a piece of shit. So my goal in life is to save his life.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. So beautiful. All right. The second word is discipline. How has that been in your life, and how is it?
Well, it's a good thing you can only see my head, because I've gained about 25 pounds in COVID, and talking to this person that is ripped is like, maybe I should use that gym membership. It's funny, the things in life that discipline is easy for us. And I actually call it James instead of the gym, because it just sounds kinder. So I haven't seen James in a while. So maybe I should go see James. Not really good at that. The gym is an intimidating place for me. Again, all these men and like me. It's ironic that a guy that knows that mental health and wellness is so important, and mental health and physical health are so tied, but I'm like, I'll get to that physical health thing later. So that's what I think of, is that like I could be more disciplined in certain areas of my life. Other areas I'm great, but some areas, and talking to you is very intimidating because I don't have that body below my head. And yeah, that's what I think of.
Wow. That's awesome. I love what you said. So Optimal Self, one of our principles is move. And when I was building the principles, and again, move, it's not called exercise, is because, again, you look at me and it is like intimidating or different or whatever, right? Whatever you see is people like, well, I don't want to look like that. I don't want my bicep to look like that. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? They're like, and I'm like, well, that's not the point, because movement daily is more beneficial to your brain than it is to your body. Aesthetically, things can change for sure, but the reaction, the hormones, the things that happen within our brain through movement. So I love this conversation. Again, we're Optimal Self Conversations for this reason exactly, is because I don't want people to believe that they have to go to a gym. I don't believe in that. It's something that I enjoy, but I mean, now I just built one at my house, and I do it downstairs, and I go down in my garage. It literally is called the dungeon. It's got the Optimal Self stuff in there, and I got a sauna. I built a sauna in there, and it's wonderful, right? And I kick my own ass. I do, but I'm going to tell you, the days that I don't feel like it, man, I grab my coffee, I have my water first, and I grab my coffee and I just go for a walk. Mm-hmm. And I do. And people are like, wait, no way. You got to be slinging barbells and big dumbbell. And I said, no, yes, I enjoy that. But what I enjoy more is the mindset that I get, how I feel. So if I just go for a couple laps around my block, which has a few hills in it, like my heart rate's going to change. Right. And those things happen. So I want people even listening today, right, to understand is that you are going to be intimidated. There are going to be things that challenge you, not just James. James isn't the only one that's going to be intimidating. It's good. There's other people that are like me, that love the gym, and there's other aspects of their life that they're not dealing with, right? That are intimidating. So they're not disciplined there. So I hope people understand is that everything is in some form. If you're disciplined somewhere, you can be disciplined everywhere. Yeah. And if you're undisciplined somewhere, you can be undisciplined everywhere. So challenge yourself to find that thing that, if James is intimidating the shit out of you, will grab Kane, grab your hubby, and go for a damn walk, right? Put him in that wagon And here we go, buddy. Let's do this. Right. And
Yep.
and guess what? The fresh air and the sunshine is going to do you good as well. There's some benefit to all that. And it's going to be, my mental health guy knows that, hey, we can add this to
Yep.
it. Right. So, man, I'm filled with gratitude right now, man. I truly am. My heart, very rarely that I do one of these and feel it there. Like, I love the conversation, but I love getting people out there. But Archie, what you're bringing to the world, man, is needed. Your story, I'm just grateful for you sharing it with our audience today, with me. And man, I don't want to, I hope that we can stay on the same path and stay in the same circle, man. You're definitely an inspiration, and I love what you're doing, man. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, I do a lot of these, as I'm sure you do, and not every time do I leave like pumped up, and I'm pumped up. Let's go. Yeah, it was an honor, and I hope someone out there listening. Not I hope. I believe that someone out there listening heard something that can be helpful to them, and let's stay on this path together, my friend.
Yeah, man. Well, you've definitely left an impact on me, and I know that kid in Oshkosh is going to hear this, and I hope that again, save a life just in the conversation. So, thanks, Arch. We'll be in touch, man. And for everybody else, until next time, get out there and be the best version of you.